Some viewers may find this content disturbing. Viewer discretion is advised. Barbara Hartman. Yes, it is always good to see another member of the Midnight Society stopping into StarFox Radio for this episode of Midnight Lycanthropy. We do have some very interesting topics to cover, yet please, I am very hungry and I need to feed. Absolutely delicious, much better. And now that I feel my power sources are unlocked and I am ready to hunt the Dogman, it is time for Barbara and myself to take a walk into the darkness. My creatures of the night, yes, welcome back to another episode of Midnight Lycanthropy here on StarFox Radio. We did miss out with Barb Hartman last week while she attended to some pretty interesting and cool things, but yes, she is back with us tonight and has some pretty interesting stuff we're going to touch base on. We actually have some encounters from Japan that we're going to touch base on. And Barb, how you doing tonight, my friend?
I'm doing good. Thanks for having me again.
Of course. Thank you for always taking time and linking up. What's new your way?
Well, not much. I had a great visit last week to California and just got back last night with my son and my granddaughters down there. So it was a really good time. What a beautiful place. We were in the Monterey Bay area, and gosh, it's just such a pretty part of the country. If anybody's been there, if not, go. Go. It's just the Pacific coastline in that area, Northern California, is just incredible. Beautiful place.
Yeah, no, I saw some of your images and videos you sent, and it definitely looked like you were having a pretty good time for sure. So that is always excellent. And did you get to see any great white sharks?
No, except we went to the Monterey Aquarium, Monterey Bay Aquarium, and there were some sharks in there, but there wasn't. I don't think I didn't see any great whites. I don't know. Is that safe for them to put? You know what? In
Actually, it's funny you say that because great white sharks are actually one of the marine animals that cannot be put into captivity because they have such a large range of area. And every time that they've tried it, the great white shark, whether it was younger or older, no matter what, it ended up being found deceased within a few days. So
really?
yeah, it's something to do with how they are. But same thing if you look at orcas. I mean, that's why orcas' fins bend over. I mean, orcas are a little bit more durable than white sharks are. I mean, don't get me wrong, like great whites are super durable, but I'm just saying, as just stated, great whites can't survive in captivity.
Wow.
Whereas orcas can, but obviously they lash out, you know what I mean? So yes.
Yeah, their dorsal fin folds over, which is really sad. And I'm glad that I think that we're coming to the end of them having any orcas in captivity. And And I'm just going to say that if anybody, goes to any kind of, I'm sorry, but goes to any kind of parks or whatever that does that, please don't support that, because like you said, Kenny, their dorsal fins, actually fold over. And that's an indication of them not doing well. They might be doing well physically, but they're not emotionally. They're such creatures of, family, and they need their family. They know their family. So it's so terrible when they're taken away from when they're from their families. It's just terrible.
Yeah, it's definitely
So,
not very good for sure. And wow, the
yeah.
ancient coal-powered Chromebook has fired up here.
All right.
I actually just need to get down to the
Yeah.
proper section
Yeah.
here, and we'll get that fired up. But yeah, no, it's
Yeah.
a sign of stress and also
Hmm.
a sign of unhappiness and things,
Yeah.
which is, yeah, I mean, just think of it's no different than a human being put in prison and see how they react. I mean, obviously, everyone has
Well,
different
yeah.
beliefs, but I'm a firm believer that whether animal or human, we're all the same. But for some reason, humans think that they have this superior aspect about them where they just, because, oh, I'm a human, I'm more important than the fox. And
Yeah.
no, it just doesn't really roll like
Hmm.
that. Meaning
Right.
that if you put a person into prison, how do they do? Yeah, usually
Yeah.
not so
Yep.
well.
Yep.
And you
Yeah.
put
And
an
then, and I
animal
mean,
in zoos, yeah, not so well.
right. And then now we understand that sometimes they have to do this if they're, there's like a sort of a rescue, place. And I think that I think that some of these marine parks do well with that sort of thing. Okay. With rescuing, because then sometimes if you rescue any sort of animal or whatever, they can't even be released back into the wild. They won't do well. But if we're talking about the orcas, and they literally like stole them from their families. And it happened very close to where I live too. I didn't live here at the time. And it was maybe even before I was born. I'm not sure on that. But anyway, just a really sad situation. They kind of corralled some of them in, and one was a baby, and corralled her away from her family, and just took her off to Florida. Just a terrible thing. But yeah, that's
Yeah, it's
humans.
pretty bad
We're
stuff.
something. It was really interesting, and I know that I sent you the video when we were in Monterey. There's now sea lions are very common in that area anyway, but they have kind of for some reason taken over this one section of beach that's just typically it's a great beach for for humans to get to go, but the sea lions started taking it over, and it's all male, they said. And I didn't realize that. I don't know how to tell the difference, but it was incredible just how they. Oh God, there were hundreds of them just on this one beach. So they had to obviously block it off, to humans. So everybody's kind of standing and watching them. Fascinating. And I may have sent you this, that there were like these three sea lions in this one area, and this one came up and is barking at them and like kind of biting at them and moved the other one out of the way. Like, that's my spot. And I'm thinking, what? What's going through their brain? Like, I want that spot. That looks like a good spot. Like all squished up with the other ones. I don't know, Kenny. It was weird. It was great though. It was
That's
really
pretty
cool to see.
funny.
Yeah.
I do know down in Cape Cod because they have, I can't remember the exact date, they protected sea lions. And
Uh-huh.
ever since they became a protected species, their numbers have exploded. And a lot of people don't realize that in the Northeast, we actually have the largest great white population in the country off of Cape Cod. A lot
Whoa.
of people think it's on the West Coast, but in actuality, at the moment now,
Yeah.
it's up in the Northeast. And a lot of scientists are interested because it was at a point in time, South Africa, the Cape was one of the largest spots to find great white sharks. But now, with the intrusion of orcas into that area,
Uh-huh.
the great whites have moved out. And
Oh,
a lot of the great whites that they had observed over there, they've been finding them all the way up, like I said, in the Northeast, on the coast.
wow.
Yeah, that's another thing is people don't realize how far great whites travel.
Mm-hmm.
Like some of them have been found, like Deep Blue. She was in Hawaii, but then she was also found somewhere down in, oh, geez, I think it was in the Caribbean and stuff. I mean,
Wow, that's cool.
yeah, quite a long ways away.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
to say what you were saying with them all beached up, usually that's either them just, yeah, gaining energy from the sunlight, or that's
Mhm.
also usually if you see them acting a little distraught because there's a predator around in the water. Yeah, so a lot of times if you see them all up, they're either, like I said, gaining sunlight to get, like, sunbathe,
Yeah.
or they feel like there's something lurking out there. And that's why sometimes you'll
Wow.
see sea lions trying to jump on buoys deep out in the ocean, or
Yes.
also onto people's
Yeah.
boats and things. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, we have a lot of them in the Puget Sound where I live, and it is frustrating because the numbers here are exploding as well, and so they'll come in and really decimate. Like when the salmon are running, they just come in and just eat them all up. And I one time there was about 200 in the waters behind me, and then so they eat the salmon, and then they just go wherever they came from, or I mean, not came from, but they just travel around.
Yes.
Obviously they're looking for, but I do feel that we need to cull the numbers. Possibly, we have orca here, but there's certainly I don't even there's not even enough orca to eat them all. There's because again, when you're talking about hundreds, but anyway.
No, for sure. And it's always been interesting for me, before we dive into these, to look
Yeah,
at
the
how,
dogman.
well, just, I mean, this all ties into it,
Yeah,
though, because
it does.
people don't understand that, animals in general are just, intellectual. But I've always found it interesting, whereas way before humans ever existed, right?
Mhm.
Seems to be that nature, was able to take care of itself quite well, right?
Yeah.
But now, for some reason, I feel like, as stated before, humans, we think that we're in charge of everything, that there's
Hmm.
only allowed to be this many grizzly bears here, or
Hmm.
this many deer and such. And I always just wonder, I'm pretty sure nature's functioned, as stated, quite well without us for millions of years. So again, why do we think that we know the exact number of, oh, there can only be this many gray wolves? Like, you know what I mean? I don't know. It's always
Right. No,
baffled me, I
I think that
guess.
it is very interesting. And yeah, and if nature, if it is out of balance, why is that? It's probably human interference. But not always, obviously. But um, yeah, it's very interesting.
Like you said, obviously there's something that has caused that, but way before humans existed, I
Yeah.
mean, there's
Yeah.
prey animals and then there's predators. And
Yep.
sometimes when there's too many prey animals and not
Hmm.
enough predators,
Yeah.
well, that's what happens. I mean, it's just, I understand it, but like I said, I just have always found it interesting as
It is.
to, because I mean, bottom line, people have pretty much screwed up Earth pretty well in certain
Yeah.
regards, right?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and we
Yeah.
think we know how to handle everything, and it just makes me
Yeah.
question that sometimes, I suppose.
Hmm. Yep.
You know what I mean? So it's
Yes,
like, oh,
absolutely.
okay.
Oh gosh, yeah.
So
Whew.
it's just so funny because we think, like I said, we're so smart, but then we imprison animals that are super smart too. Like you saw that video of the orangutan, putting on the medication, etc. He's
Yeah.
so smart to do that, right? But then you put him behind cages and you just like
Yes.
have people throw peanuts at him and stuff. It's, I don't know,
Oh,
it's
yeah,
messed up.
yeah. It is. What a terrible thing. Because if we feel like what if I always think too, yeah, like what if we did that to humans
You see what I'm
and
saying?
charge
Animals,
money, yeah,
yes.
to see, yeah.
Unless you're domesticated, like you said, and you're fond of that lifestyle, that's okay.
Mhm.
But do you think, not you, but do people think that a wild horse that is caught in the wild is going to be
Yeah.
happy or domesticated?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
I mean, a domesticated horse born into being domesticated and
Mhm.
around people and being fed. Now, do you think he or she's happier in domestication or free? Probably domestication, correct?
Yeah,
Because it's no,
I
no
would think, yeah.
predators and such.
Mhm.
Yes.
Right.
So
Right.
it's, yeah, like you said, it's definitely a catch 22. Because I mean, if you're helping
Mhm.
something heal, and like some of those TV
Yeah.
shows where they're, eagles that have lost wings and things, that's a big difference, because
Yes.
there's only two choices. They're either unalive the animal or give it
Yeah.
its best opportunity. But when you have something that is fully capable of functioning out in the
Mhm.
wild, and then you take it and you put it in the zoo like elephants and make them do these bizarre
Yes.
things, I suppose that's not.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean,
Yeah.
they're smart enough to get ticked off. So like, what the
Mhm.
heck?
Yeah. Yeah. Right.
You know what I mean? So I
Yeah.
don't know. I don't know whose brilliant
Oh.
idea that was, but
Well, yeah, we saw what happened with Jurassic Park, with the movie. And
right?
that
Yeah.
I'm so afraid that somebody's gonna think that's a real like in reality a good idea because wow.
Yeah,
Um
actually,
yeah.
that's super
Oh.
interesting. Is that during World War II, I've talked about it a little bit, is that the Nazis, they actually brought back an ancient bull species that was super strong, but yet they somehow screwed it up a little bit, that it had no desire to be wild. It was literally just like
Oh, really?
Useless in regards of they had to feed it and literally they had to make it do things. It was lazy and
Yeah.
yeah, all kinds of
Wow.
things.
Wow. Huh.
Yeah, so that was like super interesting. But
Yeah, it
uh,
is.
all right, cool. So this one right here, I would like to think that some of these are to the radar here. You might have heard of these. I actually had to do some pretty deep diving, and the only reason, like I stated to you, that I was able to get a couple encounters from China that I spoke to Brian Barber about
Oh,
was
yeah.
being able to speak to the witnesses, which was pretty cool. I had to have
Nice.
somebody help me understand, what I could
Okay.
understand some of it because my little brother's wife, so my sister-in-law and my
Oh, yeah.
niece. Yeah, so
Mm-hmm.
my sister-in-law is from Taiwan. She
Okay.
speaks, Mandarin Chinese, and they
Oh,
can,
okay.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
she speak English, and she can speak a
Mm-hmm.
ton. And my niece can speak like three different languages now, which is
Mm.
hilarious. But
That's
so
great. Mm-hmm.
yeah, from that I could understand a little bit, but like I said, I had a translator. But it was really
Mm-hmm.
interesting because it's hard to find Chinese history, meaning it's something that culturally they don't necessarily just put out there like some of the other cultures where history
Uh-huh.
is easily accessible. You can find it, but like I said, it's just a lot harder. So
Harder. Hmm.
from there, I was able to get introduced to a couple of Japanese encounters, which I'm going to read to you right now,
Oh,
which is pretty
nice.
interesting. And
Okay,
these,
cool.
yeah, these are actually fairly recent too. So the first one is 2018 in Tokyo. A local pet groomer is cleaning a client's dogs when she realizes they begin to act strangely. Wondering why, the woman looks around and to her horror, she sees a human like wolf creature with black, shaggy fur, a large mane, and glowing yellow eyes looking into the salon through the window in a nearby alley. After a minute or so, the strange creature turned around, dropped down on all the four legs, and ran away.
Whoa. Whoa.
It's in the city too, Tokyo.
Wow. That's bizarre. And um, how did it how was it able to get around unseen like that?
I
I
think the
mean in
sewers
Tokyo.
kind of have
Oh.
something to do with it too. Like I was saying to
Oh,
some other people, I
okay.
mean, we know that they use cave systems and things,
Yeah. Yeah.
but there have been people that, like to explore around in, old areas that connect to
Yeah.
sewers and things. And I
Mhm.
mean, obviously, you know how it is. Some of those videos are extremely questionable, but I've spoken to other people that claim that they've seen bright red eyes, yellow eyes down there. Could be
Wow.
anything. And I mean, we know alligators have been down there and such. So
Mhm. Mhm.
animals in general just use that. And that would be, yeah, sure. I mean, there are manholes that are uncovered at certain spots or ways to get up. And it makes me wonder, like you said, because Tokyo, was it just walking down Main Street, but it was in
Yeah.
an alley. So did it come
Wow.
up from like the sewer or something? Or,
Mhm.
yeah.
Mhm. That's really interesting. It was such a highly populated area that it would just yeah, for it just to show up. That's really interesting. And
But
then
if it
scary
wasn't,
for her. Whoa.
I know, right? But if it was a back alley, then that could be pretty easy probably to, yeah, just pop up from that. I mean, alleys can be
Yeah.
long or there could be
Mhm.
boxes out there. And I mean,
Yeah.
there's a ton of,
Dumpsters.
that's what I'm saying. So, I mean,
Yeah.
even though it was in Tokyo, it's, I guess, not like it was just walking down, the
Yeah.
middle of the
Yeah.
road. It wasn't in an alleyway. So, I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, which is, we all know just in general, I mean, modern day alleyways are where people do shady things in general and get away. I mean, people,
Yeah.
I've seen, officers trying to chase criminals down alleyways and they just lead to all different places sometimes. So,
Wow. That would be very scary. That'd be terrifying. Whoa.
yes. And have you ever seen, so, all right, like a total nerd here, like those old school, like mid 90s, like early 90s kind of action karate type movie, kung fu movies with like Jean-Claude Van Damme and stuff. When
Mhm.
they were filming over in Tokyo and other places like that, you really get an idea of the type of environment. And that's what I mean. There was like so many alleys around the city that you could
Yeah.
just see that would just cut around. Like one alley goes down all of a sudden to another alley. And then as they
Mhm.
were running down this alley, if you cut through this, I don't know, it's just really intricate. And it's not like an alley, say down in Boston, that just comes to a dead end. Theirs seem to have a lot of different ways in and out, if that makes any
Oh,
sense.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. And they kind of, yeah, like you said, like it'll curve around a building.
Yeah, down in
Yeah,
Mexico,
like
it's
down.
like that a lot too. Yes.
Yeah, yeah. It's not just like you said, just an alley that's deep
No,
and
it's
then it
not.
stops.
Yes, then it just
Wow.
stops. Like that's like a
Hmm.
Boston thing or something.
Yeah.
Okay, like, but
Yeah.
over in
Yeah.
a lot of the Asian cultures, like I said, like their alleys just connect and boom, 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 and just
Yeah.
kind of all. And like I said, I know down in Mexico as well, it's a lot
Yeah.
like that because you'll go down an alley, then you all of a sudden come to a neighborhood, and you go down another
Hmm.
small. Yeah, so it's not like this thing was just, hey, come check me out.
Right.
So
Right.
it is
Yeah.
interesting for sure, though.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow.
All right, got another one here.
Okay.
2020. Nagoya, Japan. I probably hacked the
Okay.
heck out of that. But unfortunately, English is my first language. So a
Yeah.
group
Me
of
too.
teens are playing in a park when they notice a strange, tall, dark brown, canine like creature walking back and forth up on two legs and then down on four legs around a field like a person
Oh.
would do, except when dropping down on all fours, it acted like an animal. They were looking at this thing for a bit, and all of a sudden it whipped its head towards them, and they became scared for their safety. The young teens ran off and never returned to that park again.
Wow. Interesting. Just love to talk to them. Like ask them more details.
Yeah, I know, right?
Wow.
And
Like,
it,
yeah.
that's the big problem with earlier. Jody and I were talking about a recent case. That, I mean, we've spoken to people that verified this individual was cool. People know
Mhm.
him, vice versa. But we can't really verify or debunk something that he's stating to us. It's his encounter, so I mean, it's his words, but
Mhm.
I wasn't there. Jody wasn't there. Anyone else that knows him wasn't there. I
Mhm.
am not able
Yeah.
to speak to family and such. So, I mean, I'm just speaking to him. I've spoken to him numerous times. Seems, like I said, like a quality individual.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
that just seems like so many of these type of, like you said, though, encounters, meaning I don't even know how to state it. It's almost like it's just in limbo. It's a 50-50,
Mhm.
meaning is it
Well,
legit or is it
yeah. I
not?
have a tendency to believe people until they give me a reason not to, or until I find a reason that I absolutely shouldn't. Um, I can't imagine that the average person, I'm just going to say the average person, is going to make up this elaborate, which is a lot of these things, these details are, they're elaborate. And that they're going to do that if they're not, and especially if they're not knowledgeable on the subject. And so I'd love to talk to the kids as far as like when it stood up. Was it, did it have like human looking
Yes.
legs? Did its legs look more like, like a dog? But yes. So, and this guy that I don't know whomever, we're not going to obviously identify him, but yeah, what would be the motivation? Because even if you're just telling a couple of people your encounter, it's not like you're making a movie or writing a book or getting on
Hmm.
TV, and talking about it. And a lot of people won't even talk about any of this. They may tell us right verbally, and say, yeah, you can share this, but don't share any details about it. That happens a lot too. So what would their motivation be for doing that? It
Very
makes sense.
valid points. And
Yeah.
so people that I trust and love, such as yourself and other people that are
Mhm.
friends of mine, I always, take face value because I
Yeah.
trust y'all. But
Yeah.
I will say from my acting and modeling years, I
Mhm.
used to put trust into people too much, meaning
Mhm.
I would go with their word. And I'll give you an example one time, meaning about how actually, I'll give you two examples. So I was doing meet and greet modeling for Abercrombie and Fitch, meaning they would put me in front of their stores and
Yeah.
like a total nerd, just take your shirt off, whatever, and you stand up
Yeah.
there with some girl and you greet people, whatever.
Yeah.
So
Mhm.
from there, though, they had wanted to promote me to basically being in their magazine. This is what they had said.
Okay.
Yet I never really got up out of that little loop. I was on one of I don't know if you ever used to go in those stores. There was the big billboard at the front of the stores too, like the big picture kind of, with the
Mhm.
frame. So I had
Yeah.
one of those as well, but more or less, I never got to where I was supposed to with them. And
Okay.
I always
Mhm.
took their word that they were going to promote me, yet they never did.
Mhm.
And also another time with my agency that I used to be with down in Boston, Maggie Inc., wasn't their fault. They hooked me up with a job, and I showed up at the job thinking there was going to be a certain amount of pay. I was going to be making, I think it was like $2,000 to do like a Sylvania show for a car where we were like tuners, which are basically just people making it look like we were working on cars, whatever.
Okay.
We get there and they then tell us that, well, we're not actually going to be using you as much as we originally thought. So it's going to be actually $900, not 2,000,
Oh my gosh.
which I
Ugh,
still would have signed on for the 900.
yeah,
You know what I mean? But
but still.
it's the point though
Mm-hmm.
that you were taking these people at their word as to the
Yeah.
contracts and things like that. So
Right.
yeah, it's super hard sometimes. You want to give people the benefit of the
Hmm.
doubt with things. It's
Yeah.
just unfortunate that, like I said, I've just run into people and had experiences where you
Oh,
take them
sure.
at
Yep.
like the value that they're telling
Yep.
you, but then you never
Yes.
really get out of that. And
Yeah.
I don't know. So it is,
You know what? And you're right. And I guess that I should, what with my thing, I should preface if somebody's coming to me with a story about a cryptid, or an experience. Yeah. I definitely don't believe everybody. Like you said, I definitely not every person that I meet or become acquainted with, because that would be pretty dumb. Because yeah, we've all been, screwed over whatever by
yeah,
people that are
bamboozled,
lying
whatever you want.
to it,
Yes.
bamboozled. Exactly. Yeah, yeah. And I just think, I mean, and I've only been interviewing people. It's just over a year. But uh, that's it again. It's just in this situation because the things that just the details and the shared commonalities in reports. So Bob in just outside of Portland, Oregon, is having the exact same thing happen to him as I'm just pulling up. I'm making up names, okay? As Stephen in Kennebunkport, Maine, had the same situation, but they don't
Yes.
know each other, and it's not like there's not. I mean, yeah, there's books about these cryptids, but not these little details. It's just so super interesting. It's really
You're
so
so correct,
that's
and very
yeah.
valid points as well. That's why I like to really use some more historical aspects a lot of
Hmm.
times because
Yeah.
that was before they could communicate with each other. And just meaning that every time you and I do things correct and put out an information that, oh, somebody saw him with raccoon like hands, I
Hmm.
feel like people that pay attention to those things can create their own encounter. I mean, we're literally putting out information as to what's being reported. So,
Yeah,
did you really
that's
see
true.
raccoon like hands? Or are
Hmm.
you just
Hmm.
saying they are now because you
Yeah.
know that we said their hands look like that? And
Right.
more or less, somebody could legit make up a whole entire encounter off of real information. And
Yeah.
I again won't say any names, but I know of individuals that are supposedly really good researchers in other people's eyes that people
Hmm.
that have dirt on them showed me about how they would take one encounter and literally take like turn it into four or five just by changing
Yep.
dates,
Yeah.
names, and splitting it up and stuff like that. So
Mm-hmm.
again,
Yep.
it's unfortunate. You want to trust everybody and just look at, I can tell you more about it sometime, but what occurred within the North American Dogman project that almost really set us back quite a long time ago.
Yeah.
And Jody Cook's one of my best friends. Well, people he
Hmm.
had put a ton of trust in. Well, what they do? They took all his research, went out
Yes.
and just tried to make their own thing based off of all his stuff. And these were people that he had spent hours and
Yeah.
tons of time with, they're at his house, etc. He's over there.
Yeah.
These are people that are supposed to be your friends.
Yeah.
And again,
It's terrible.
well, that's what I'm saying. So it's
Mm-hmm.
just unfortunate because we do always want to take people at face value, but I do encourage everyone. It's hard because I mean, there's people that are quote unquote poker faces. Man, there's good people that can like hoax things. I mean, it's just
Hmm.
unfortunate. And
Yeah.
like I said, we wouldn't have hoaxes if we didn't catch people putting out crap. And I mean, all those
Hmm.
people, for the most part, we originally thought they were decent, which is why we started having the platform to speak to them. But then
Yeah.
things just kind of start not adding up.
Hmm.
And okay, you're a hoaxer.
I think most people, if you have been found to fake or hoax in this community, and again, this is not everybody, not a blanket statement, but most of the people, I mean, they're going to they are no longer, you've lost all your integrity. They're not going to
Hmm.
listen to anything. And we are going to be outspoken about them because so it's not, so if anybody is thinking about that, don't, because right, especially with like us researchers and people that I don't really consider myself a researcher in my own, like area, because I do have a clan of Sasquatch living around that live around me. But I'm an experiencer, okay? But we research into the subjects, we research into cryptids, we research into historically, right? And when we have found, that these people are fake and they're hoax, and they hoax things, they're done with for the most part, and that will carry through. Years later, you'll see, oh, remember when this guy did that, and then you've lost all credibility. So
See,
don't
I
do it,
preach that. I
people.
wish that would happen more often, because there
Yeah.
are a couple people that, for example, Brian Barber would have no problem throwing their names out, but like one of the people that is a larger Sasquatch researcher that did some stuff where he took out Les Stroud on Survivor Man.
Yes,
Yes,
I know who
okay.
you're talking
Well,
about. Yeah. Hmm.
yeah,
Hmm.
in the beginning, like Brian said, he actually thinks he really had stuff, but
Yeah.
then he turned into, wanting to obviously just always prefabricate things now and
Hmm.
just have all of this evidence. Well, before I read this last encounter to you, there's somebody like that we actually booted out of the North American Dogman Project for being a hoaxer, right? He recently was putting on a very large platform and was able to speak about his supposed encounter. They had approached Jody and him, but chose to go with his story instead of Jody's because it was more off the wall. Yeah, of
Hmm.
course, because it was
Hmm.
hoaxed. And
Hmm.
Jody was actually there with this individual, and this individual claimed that he had found this bloody clothing in an area where supposedly there was dogman activity, and went back home to get plastic bags to pick up the. And when he had called the police, told him about it, he came back. There was car tracks everywhere. The clothing was nowhere to be found now. Then he finds
Wow.
out that some girl that went jogging went missing in this area. Bunk, 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 bunk. Like Jody
Mm.
said, no, that clothing was found in a dumpster area, a pit, okay, where you bring your
Hmm.
trash. All right,
Yeah. Oh,
wasn't found where
yeah.
this person said it was found, and there was nothing to verify this
Oh.
person's daughter went missing. That was made up, and
Oh my
all this
gosh.
stuff. Yes, but this
Yeah.
individual is still being put on platforms to speak,
Mm.
and it's pretty gnarly, unfortunately.
Yeah, it is. It is, and damages the whole field. It just the people that don't believe, they'll say, and think that this is all
Yeah, they'll be like, "Yo,
nonsense.
look at
Well,
this
there
dude
you
still
go.
talking. Yeah, he's a
Yeah,
hoaxer."
exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
it's
mean,
unfortunate.
it is messed up. And
Yeah.
this last
Yeah.
one right here too might bring a little bit more interest for you as well too. We got 2021, Okada, Japan. A local hunter is tracking a deer when he begins hearing rustling in front of him. Raising his rifle, he suddenly sees a 6 to 8 foot tall, jet black, shaggy, canine-like creature with pointy ears and glowing red eyes walking towards him on two bent back canine like legs.
Oh
As this
wow.
creature began growling aggressively, the man fired a warning shot at the creature, just at its feet as he was running backwards. The strange animal paused, looked down at the ground, looked back up at the man fleeing, and then bluff charged him before running off into the wilderness.
Oh whoa. That's wild. Scary. Wow. Like you say, nightmare fuel.
Right?
Wow. Does it wait? Does it say where that? Do you know where that happened?
Yeah, that was in Japan
Okay.
again.
Okay. So okay. Wow. Yeah. Wow. I didn't realize they had. I'm not saying that they don't. I just don't know that much about Japan. I didn't realize that they had like hunters in the woods with guns, but probably. I don't know.
It is, like you said, I try to tell people that it's not just, an American thing here. And
Yeah. Yeah.
also,
Oh yeah.
it is
Absolutely.
so much more than that. And like in that folk song I made, I mean, from Maine, some of those sightings are before the infamous Dogman, okay, in Michigan. I mean,
Yeah.
this is in Maine. Why
Hmm.
did people just overlook these as well? I actually had to do
Yeah.
some pretty good digging to find those old newspaper clips to read about those. And yeah, super interesting stuff for sure.
Yeah.
Starting to list.
That was great. Yeah. And if anybody hasn't, do you have that out on YouTube?
I do, my friend.
Okay, good. Yeah, everybody has to check that out because that's great. I was like, whoa, all this neat stuff. It's really cool and that's like that. I know that I had shared, it was from a Facebook post, a painting from 1859, of the supposed, what did they call the lycanthropes? Is that what
Yeah, they're all
what did they
sitting there
call
looking
them in
like
that?
they're taking a cigarette break or
Yeah,
something, just
yeah, they're
posted
just
up.
kind of standing around at the outs and
I
at,
believe
at
that
the
was a real
walls of a
sighting.
cemetery. Oh yeah, I think so.
Yes,
Yeah,
I believe it
definitely.
was a depiction of what somebody had seen, and that's
Yes,
super interesting. That's what I'm
exactly.
saying.
And how
It's
crazy, right? How crazy, like to think, because that is what we still hear to this day is how they like to, hang out near cemeteries. But some people say this is I don't know, that not Catholic cemeteries, and why would that be?
hmm,
I don't,
interesting.
yeah, I don't know. Yeah, right. Yeah. Something we'll have to research a little bit more into. I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
no, for
good
sure. And
stuff.
Jessica Jones was talking to me about some of that stuff as well. And
Yeah.
I guess on a final note, more or less, it would really all depend. I mean, I do know wild animals like to dig up
Right.
grave sites and eat the
Yeah.
deceased, which is why they started trying to bury them 6 feet deep because wolves and
Yes.
hyenas are
Uh-huh.
infamous for that stuff.
Hmm.
And so, sure, could they be there digging up and getting
Yeah.
food? Could
But like
they? Or
I don't think, not in modern times, right? Because I mean people, you're encased in, it's a what do they call it? Like oh, the big, they put a big like cement box down first, put the uh,
okay,
put, yeah, the coffin down in that, and then close it up, and then so they can't even get into at this, this. But what about
very
it?
valid
So
point. Could they still be
yeah,
like just digging holes without taking maybe the body, right?
well,
And then these
that's
cemeteries
true.
could be like aware of it because Jessica seems to think that the original Ohio cemetery, Green Lawn one, that
Uh-huh.
video the two young girls took, that yeah, what if that was digging for that and then comes to an area
Yeah.
and realizes, oh crap, I can't get in. And also, Jessica seems
Uh-huh.
to think that cemeteries had that happen before, but they just don't enunciate it, meaning they just take care of it
Mhm.
themselves, just
Mhm.
cover the hole back up.
Right. Yeah.
And yeah,
Right.
so it could be that, or it could be something more where those are potentially skinwalker-ish aspects that you're seeing
Yeah.
hanging around
Oh,
the
that's
cemeteries
true. Yes.
with
Yes.
the more the
Mhm.
dark magic aspect.
There's
We
something that they can do that would make them more
yes.
powerful or
And
something
I know
like
the
that. Yeah.
Amish dove into some
Mhm.
kind of dark magics and things, and William White was talking about that, where they have some like they don't directly say it, but shape shifting and werewolf type lores
Mhm.
and such. And I guess then on a final note, though, also if you want to stay undetectable, I mean, how many people really are just chilling in cemeteries? And again, they're connected by forests, so I mean, sure, if
Yeah.
you're trying to be discreet and not, being
Yeah.
caught, well, if the road's right there or I can cut through the cemetery, sure. And then maybe someone sees it cutting through the cemetery.
Mhm. There was a just brief, like you said before we wrap it up. And I think we may have talked about this before, that there were witnesses. And this is going to the LBL. They were cleaning up the graves in the Mount Pleasant Cemetery. Did we talk about this before? And that's the area of that supposed, the violent attack. So what they are asserting that, so all, they spend the day cleaning up the graves and cutting the grass and all that, and then they said, two dogmen jumped down from cedar trees and scared them off. So that's really that's scary. But again, it's the LBL, so who knows what that is, what it is, what they were.
Super, super bizarre stuff right there for
Yeah,
sure. And
right. Hmm.
I do appreciate you popping in tonight. And I
Of
encourage
course.
everyone that hasn't had a chance to check out Barb's stuff yet. She has her own YouTube channel that is always tagged in the description, as well as her Facebook pages. And Barb actually gets out there a lot. So individuals that want to
Yeah.
see, firsthand camera and out there doing things, well, Barb does that. And people that want to, see a little bit more journalist
Mhm.
aspects, well, that's what I do. But I definitely encourage everyone to check out her page, support her.
Thank
She's
you.
part of the squad. We're trying to get our whole little group all monetized and trying to make sure we're all taken care of. So please do go over and support that for sure.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, the more I really have only been into this actively when I started to have signs, and we'll talk about that. We probably should talk about that on, maybe we'll talk about that on our next show together. But just with so many questions that are answered, but then again, there's a whole new set of questions. So it's just a continually evolving, set of circumstances. It's very interesting, though, right?
Thank you for everyone who stopped by tonight for this episode of Midnight Lycanthropy here on Star Fox Radio. If you do enjoy my content, please like, subscribe, and share it. Feed the algorithm, and I will catch you on the next one.